All right, welcome back to the Starfighter podcast. You've got your co-hosts here tonight, Dom and Jake, and we're here to talk about The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7, episode The Spies. This is the penultimate episode. We're already there. We've got one more episode next week, and we're building up for sure. Jake, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm at light speed. I'm not quite at plaid like you, but I'm gonna try to keep up.
I'm pretty stoked about this one.
I mean, it was a good episode, man. I kind of told you like it was gonna be terrible because how mad I was about the last one, but it was.
Yeah.
They stepped it up. And we could talk about what's
You were
going on.
probably also being a good friend, like in a way too, because we talked a little bit yesterday, and like I think both of us just really wanted it to be good, but it's like also kind of important sometimes to like lower your expectations. That way you don't set yourself up for disaster. So I think you're also just kind of being a good friend as well.
I was trying, man. I was trying.
All right, before we get into our review, guys, thank you so much for tuning in here live or whether it's on the replay. We do appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button for us if you haven't already. Leave us a like, but above all else, in the comment section, let us know how you enjoyed this episode. We want to hear your theories going forward. And then towards the end of our breakdown tonight, we're going to obviously be talking about how we think the series is going to, or the season is going to wrap up and come to an end. So we definitely want to hear from you guys. And if you're watching on the replay, you throw in your comments. We will play your comments on the screen and read them out loud for the audio listeners as well. All right, we got that out of the way. Let's just get right into it. Let's do it. We've got our introduction scene, and we get to see Gideon once again. What do you think of his intro here? And just like walking through those halls too, seeing some of the troopers, seeing that there's obviously, as we know, there's more cloning experiments going on, and then getting into that room, he's got this meeting with these other Imperial officers. Thrawn is mentioned. Yeah, anything you want to touch on here for our intro?
I mean, too many things, honestly, to get into with the intro. A lot of little kind of Easter eggs and stuff like that. Thought it was super cool. Obviously, we open up that scene with Elia talking to Gideon, so now we know that she's definitely helping out Gideon a lot, and she's getting rid of people that might be able to foil his plans, whatever they are, because it's really interesting. In this scene, I'll get to it in a second, but regardless, super cool that they talk. We see that scene, and then he walks into his like chamber, and those red light walls are a callback, obviously, to Phantom Menace. With the scene with Obi-Wan and Maul and Qui-Gon. Super cool. I think it's like so menacing how they're portraying him in this episode. And so loved seeing that. But he gets into this hall, right? And they have a discussion. I'm curious to get your thoughts about it because I kind of mentioned it before, but I thought maybe, and it's possibly still true, that Elia is really kind of working with Thrawn, but we'll see. But regardless, Gideon isn't concerned really about cloning, and we get a really funny callback to the sequels with Hux. I guess it's his father.
Yeah,
that's in the scene, and he's the one that's really talking about cloning, and he uses a specific word for like what, or like a code for what their plan is or what he's doing, and it's like it's a play on a word of like necromance, which is animating the dead. So clearly Hux is way more involved with this whole project of cloning, and I'm kind of confused on it. I don't know if you have a theory or like what your thoughts are about it, because it doesn't seem like Gideon really cares too much about that. So
yeah, I guess, I mean, I'm not too sure, but that actually to the Fortress Inquisitorius, and Obi-Wan's walking through the halls. I don't know if you remember this, but he realizes that that place is it's also like a tomb, and he sees like old Jedi like that are stuck in like these like vats of like liquid, and so I feel like maybe some of that could like play into this too, and just like people over time that have died, like maybe they're still able to like extract some of their DNA, kind of along the lines of what you could be talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so I don't know, like I don't know if Gideon is using this kind of cloning for himself, where he's maybe creating the Snoke that we see later on in episode 8.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he's like wants to use cloning so he can like control this force wielding being, but maybe that's why he wanted Grogu and the midichlorians. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't
There's
know.
a good chance, like, and I will get into it more later, but I think there's a really good chance that he could be wanting to build like this really powerful army that's both force sensitive and also has Beskar armor. Because I mean, you're like almost invincible at that point, right? Like,
Yeah,
impervious to blaster fire, impervious to a lightsaber strike for the most part. So yeah, and then being able to have the force on your side,
yeah, definitely.
that'd be pretty crazy.
Shout out real quick to one of our viewers, Tammy Taub, and then my niece Hayden is watching. So shout out to you, Hayden. Thanks for checking it out.
Hey, appreciate it.
Much love. But
Absolutely.
so I also am curious because it doesn't seem like Gideon really wants Thrawn to come back. Like Gideon doesn't want the Emperor to come back. It seems like Gideon wants all the power. And that's one of the things I also want to discuss in the scene is like the Empire is so crazy because we've talked about it a lot in other videos where Sith, it's like, what do they say? It's always two to come. I forget exactly.
The rule of two, yeah.
The rule of two. And so the Empire is really built off of people wanting to achieve their own power. And it's like, what is so...
like overthrow the other person.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like a divisive thing. And it doesn't seem like Gideon really gives a hoot like about the Empire, like in that sense with the Sith and like the overall plan. It sounds like he kind of is like Anakin, where he thinks that he can take over and rule like this massive army and do whatever he wants. So yeah, I don't think he's with Thrawn. I think he's just kind of playing his cards and wants to do his own thing, and I am curious to really find out if Thrawn wants the Emperor to come back, because Thrawn most of the time seemed like Gideon almost, where he wanted to rule. Like he felt like he was the best person to take over. So I don't know how they're going to tie in this whole sequel stuff.
Yeah, I've always seen Thrawn as being someone who wants to be the very top of the ranks in the Empire, but he's always been really loyal. Like his history, his backstory, he's always been very loyal and like the go-to person for Palpatine. So I don't necessarily see him like going against Palpatine. I still have this theory, I think I mentioned before, that I feel like they could be setting up here to where we get a confrontation with Gideon and Thrawn, and I feel like Thrawn will most likely end up killing Gideon in the end. I do think that's probably going to happen. But I don't know if you want to move forward with our breakdown.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we've got the Night Owls kind of squaring off with the Children of the Watch. The two factions we see they're coming together, and you can you can feel the animosity. You almost are waiting for them to start attacking one another, but um, the armorer comes in and is telling everyone to set up camp. They're about to share a meal together, um, and then we get to see um, what's his name, Grief Karga. He gives Dinjarin IG-12. So
Yeah.
now Grogu is piloting, formerly known as IG-11, and so basically Grogu is like this is like the Hulkbuster suit for Grogu, essentially.
It's like
You know,
yeah, it's like Pacific Rim, bro.
yeah. What do you think of these two scenes?
I thought it was honestly pretty cool. I don't know if like you had the same idea when the ship first flies over. I was like, okay, that's Gideon. Like he's gonna go, but he was talking about the other space thing, and so I like figured out pretty quickly. Like, okay, it's
Yeah.
not.
Oh, and that
But
was so cool seeing the Mandalorian emblem at the
yeah,
bottom,
it's massive.
yeah, of the Star
Like,
Destroyer. That was so cool, dude.
all I thought was, how long did that take to paint? Like that was the first
Right?
thought. I was like, that's massive. Um, but yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was interesting. I think it's a little bit messed up that they're like just ripping apart IG, and like he's like just a walking corpse at this point with little Yoda inside him.
They fooled everyone into thinking that Taika was going to come back and voice him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he kind of did. He's just saying yes and no, I suppose, at this point.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so I guess he's limited to that. I'm sure he took 2 seconds and went in the studio, was like yes and no, and then they paid him, $1 million, and he just walked out.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it
Did
was
you
okay.
like that too? Did you think it was pretty funny?
It got annoying pretty quickly when they're walking through the streets, and
Yeah.
I thought it was like a very funny dynamic for sure, though, between Grogu and Din, obviously, and
He's like, this isn't working for me.
he's like sick of it. He like doesn't want him to have it yet. He doesn't think, he's like, not that he can't use it, but he just doesn't think that he's responsible enough to, and so we see that in the streets, and he's like trying to eat all the food and stuff. And I think Grogu learned pretty quickly, though, like he's upsetting Dad, Dad Din
Right.
over here, Papa Mando. So I'm glad they brought it back a little bit instead of having him act like a child the whole time for the whole episode. You know what I mean? Because that would have been annoying. But I thought it was funny. I thought it was a really funny way how they kind of introduced it. And when I heard the droid talk and stuff, I was like, oh, so they're just terrified of like their choices of how he's gonna speak. Like they're not ready yet to like figure it out and give him like a speaking voice, and this is their way to kind of like buffer it. And I hope that doesn't last too long, honestly, but we'll see.
I kind of don't need him to talk though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, personally, like I wouldn't really mind if he never really talked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of fans that are kind of waiting to hear him talk, so we'll see.
I think it'd be cool if they made him talk like whatever language the Yodas are naturally born to speak. I think that'd be interesting, and just have subtitles. I think that'd be like the easiest way without messing it up for too many people, but maybe some people would be upset. I don't know that he doesn't talk like Yoda, so I have no idea. But
yeah. Well, Yaddle didn't talk like Yoda, so
yeah, Yoda just he did not pass his language courses.
Yeah.
He was getting D's. He was a D kind of student.
A little backwards for sure.
Yeah, yeah. That's like me and my Spanish, so I don't blame him. I get it.
Me too. All right, so then we get Bo's little speech about retaking Mandalore. We get some volunteers, and kind of interesting. They're on their way, and still no mention of the mythosaur. She's still keeping that to herself. So I think there's some speculation to be made there, but I find that pretty interesting.
Are you talking about this scene with the where she's having her speech?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that would be like a a good time for her
I felt like she was
to
gonna say something.
tell them about it. But I mean, I'm thinking that she probably just wants to keep it to herself, and I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's probably even more important than wielding the dark saber as far as like honor and what people are going to, you know, be respectful of. So yeah, I think she's keeping it to herself. Um, we land on Mandalore. We get to see these Mandalorian pirates. Um, yeah, it seems like we really like pirates in season 3, but I'm here for it. And then it was interesting too because these, I think there were 3 of them. So these 3 Mandalorians that were kind of in hiding for a while since the purge. It was cool to see that they knew Bo-Katan's voice and they were loyalists to her, calling her Lady Bo-Katan, remembering that she is the heiress to the throne. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, what did you think about these things?
So I just pointed out the fire pit scene when she has her speech.
Uh-huh.
And dude, it just seems like, I will get into it later, but it seems like we've talked about before that someone might be playing somebody into thinking things are their idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it feels like there's something going on. And even the music when the specific person, which I guess I could talk about, but well, this specific person walks up and like is like, yeah, I'm gonna go too. And they're like the music, like everything is just like, okay, like what's up with that?
Yeah.
You know, like everybody is like, okay, so like why are you going?
At this point, it would be more weird if the armor wasn't bad, in my opinion.
I mean, like, I just don't. I'm trying to think of like who else it could be, and even thinking back on it, we'll get into it at the end. But like, someone has to pay the price in this episode, and it seems like she would be totally willing to. Like, if you're that kind of person, and I'm gonna be honest, I have a theory of like why this might be happening.
Okay.
But we'll get into that later. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I thought that scene was pretty good. Well, I was gonna mention one more thing because I thought it was hilarious. People have been pointing out that they're eating something. They're about to eat something that's roasting over the fire, and it looks massive, and it looks like one of those babies that Bo-Katan saved, those birds, and they're just about to. They're just about to eat this thing, and I was like, it actually does look like that. So I don't know what they do with those babies. I'm not gonna.
That's
say
funny
what they did
because they did call them foundlings, like at the end of that episode.
I know, and then they're over there eating it, dude. They just Okay. Anyways, regardless, yeah, I thought it was cool seeing them. I thought it was like, for me, it hit me a little bit emotionally to see that there was people that stayed on Mandalore that were still loyal to Bo-Katan. I think that it meant a lot to her in that scene because we've seen her own people leave her because she failed to do something. And it seems like she's like, these people are way more loyal than.
And I think it was a big deal too for them to like speak up and to have that acknowledgement in front of both of the other 2 factions that are behind her in that moment. Because it's like everyone is sort of on board, but at the same time, there's still so much animosity and there's so much mixed feelings. Like, like a lot of them are there because they know that they need to take Mandalore, not because they're actually loyal to Bo-Katan at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's trusting. It's like it's the only option at this point.
Yeah, and these people were just like, "Oh my god, like Lady Bo-Katan, like you're back. Like what's going on? That's so awesome. We're so happy to see you, and we're so apologetic that we failed you." You know, like they're still such like a loyal. And I'm curious. You could talk about in the next scene, but I'm forgetting who they say they're from. I can't remember right now, but anyways, super. I think that was important for her to see, and the other groups where they're like, okay, like, we'll see what those guys do. I think they're setting up a lot of things for season 4, but yeah.
So we probably get into the dinner scene. I think this is a really important part of the episode as well. Really interesting for just like our Star Wars canon. But Bo-Katan explains to um, like the Mandalorian pirates that it wasn't that the Mandalorians didn't surrender, and that's why everything went down the way that it did. But in fact, she did surrender to Gideon after the Night of 1,000 Tears, and this was in order to save her people. Um, and just a really great scene too, because you kind of get to see like the camera turns to like the entire table, and you kind of get to see everyone's perspective, and like you get like this impression of what each person um, is thinking. You know what I mean? Like, are people like feeling like sympathy for her? Like, are they understanding, or do they still kind of look down on her for that decision to surrender? I feel like you get all of that from like the characters that you see at the table, which is kind of cool.
Definitely.
And then this is where I'm just going on a small rant here, Jake, so bear with me.
I do want to correct one thing though.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure I thought you said that she did that after Night of 1,000 Tears, and I thought she said that she did that and then he came down and just like wrecked everybody. I might be mistaken though, that it happened after she's like gave up and she's like, yeah, you could have it, and then all of a sudden like,
well, but I'm pretty sure what happened is the Night of 1,000 Tears, so things are like mostly destroyed, and then she surrenders because the ISB is trying to do they say that they're going to do a ceasefire and strike up a deal, right, if they surrender. And then Gideon betrays her, she says, and just doubles down after that. You know what I mean?
Okay. I thought she like surrendered, and then he was just like, yeah, no, like, sorry, and then just like blew up the whole planet.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So
just clarify. I just had to make sure.
Gotta pat myself on the back here for just a minute.
Lord.
So a couple weeks ago, you guys might have seen it, but I put out a video on the factions of the Mandalorians.
Great video, by the way.
Oh, thank you. But basically, we get everything I was trying to convey in that video is confirmed here from the armor. In this conversation, the Night Owls are talking to the armor because she explains to them that they had hid on the moon of Concordia after the Night of 1,000 Tears. That's where they went, which is also where Death Watch would have gone as well. And so naturally, the Night Owls ask her if her and her crew are Death Watch, and she says that Death Watch had died a long time ago, but from them splintered in a bunch of different factions, which again, that was my main point of that video that I had made. The Children of the Watch are not the same as Death Watch, but that faction, as well as a bunch of other ones, they all kind of came from Death Watch. So I thought that was cool. Good conversation. And you could tell she wanted to make that clear, even though I still think she's sketchy and we can't really trust the armor. But she wanted to make that clear that she wasn't Death Watch, because that has like different connotations behind that faction. So,
and they were the ones that followed Maul, right?
No. So Death Watch was ran by Pre Vizsla, which we all know Paz Vizsla this season, played by Jon Favreau. We're going to talk about him towards the end here of the breakdown. But yeah, Death Watch, they followed Pre Vizsla, and Bo-Katan was basically, that was his right hand was Bo-Katan. Like it was the two of them kind of running Death Watch for a time. But after that, when Maul took over, his group of Mandalorians, they were called the Shadow Collective.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were like came over from Death Watch though.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so they were
So a lot of the
followers.
right. So a lot of Death Watch turned into the Shadow Collective, and then that's around the time that Bo-Katan, left Death Watch, and I
Yeah,
break all of this down in that video, guys. If you haven't seen it, but it's a short video, and you could definitely take a look if you want.
I'm just clarifying so that my theory
Yeah.
holds water later. You know what I mean? For the viewers.
For sure.
Yeah, I gotta have them keep up with this.
For sure. Is there anything else you want to touch on when it comes to that dinner scene, or we can keep moving on?
No, I think you like summed it up pretty good. It was interesting seeing like all their faces. And I don't know if we could really touch on the scene after that dinner scene if you want me to yet, but
Yeah, we can go into it because Bo-Katan was explaining how things really went down, and then that leads into Din's conversation with her, if that's what you're thinking.
yeah, that I guess we'll touch on that in a second, but yeah, I think that conversation was pretty. I loved that speech from her because it was so real and authentic, and while she was giving it and seeing the other people kind of look at her, I think they all understood. Yeah, like that's probably our greatest weakness is like being divided, and
Yeah, that
having
was
this
good.
like civil conflict, like civil war with each other all the time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that out.
Yeah, because like that was like big time. I loved that speech, and I think it spoke to a lot of them, and we see how much that actually like got into their heads when they had to go do the last scene. Like they were pretty much a really good group and wanted to protect each other.
Yeah.
But so I love that scene. And then yeah, I thought it was super cool seeing how they all react and not give her a bunch of grief about it. Maybe they're just not saying it right now, but yeah, but I think it's foreshadowing something like one of my theories of like what's happening right now with some of the people that might be making decisions to protect a certain group of others. So but yeah, and then Din goes and talks to her after it and basically says like, I don't care like about the Darksaber, like my clan doesn't care who wields it. We're
I think we lost Jake here for a second. We will wait for Jake to come right back. But one thing I was going to say, I'm sure he'll be back in just a minute. One thing I was going to say after that, I'm glad he mentioned it, that I had forgotten. Oh, here he is. Okay, we're back. I'm just going to say one more thing real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Just I like that you brought this up, but where Bo-Katan was basically saying that Mandalore has always been basically too strong to like overtake from like an outside source. It's always been divided on the inside, the different factions going head to head because people want to hold on to the old ways or people want to evolve into some kind of new way of doing things. And it's always kind of been this struggle to just find common ground and just like keep unity between all of them. But yeah, that was such a great moment.
Yeah, and I think Din even like mentions that when he talks to her. But yeah, I don't see how she's wrong in that, and I think a lot of them thought the same thing, but he goes and says basically, we don't care about the saber, like we care about character, and that's at least what he's saying for himself.
Right. I like that it was personal too.
Super cool. Yeah, I mean, hey, everyone's shipping them now, and I told you guys it was gonna happen. But yeah, so I appreciated the fact that he came over and talked to her and kind of like just reassured that whatever past mistakes were, that they know that she did it for like the betterment of the people, and she just kind of, it didn't work out for her. She trusted the wrong person, but yeah, I loved it. I loved how personal it was. I thought it was like a little character moment between the two of them. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it right in front of our eyes, guys. We know it's going to happen with those two. Okay, it's happening.
So, speaking of being at odds, it's like not long after that conversation that Paz Vizsla and Axe Woves are going at it. They're playing basically chess, basically, and then get into an argument, and they start trash talking, and then it leads into physical altercation, and I thought it was really cool how Grogu ends up stepping in and stopping them, and then Bo-Katan tells Din how he trained him well. And it's interesting also because I believe in this scene, because Din says that he didn't learn that from me, but it's interesting that we get like I believe like the Luke Skywalker theme during that part, basically alluding to the fact that this comes from like a Jedi mindset, trying to keep the peace between different people, and so he learned that from Luke. So I thought that was kind of cool.
I thought he learned it from the Jar Jar Binks guy.
Hopefully not. From Jar Jar himself. Yeah.
Love it.
What did you think about this scene?
Yeah, again, I think it's a lot of foreshadowing, and I think it's alluding to basically what we were talking about, what Moff Gideon wants, where it's like a Mandalorian Jedi, and that's like what he's trying to breed. So that's what Grogu's kind of turning into. He's had the training of a Jedi now at this point for a couple of years, or a year, whatever Jon Favreau said. So
2 years,
yeah. I thought it was cool. I think we'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how long they're going to run the show, and I don't know what Dave Filoni's movie is going to be about. And
well, it's going to be basically the series finale.
Yeah. We kind of talked about that.
The Mandalorian, Ahsoka.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that, but I just don't know how it's going to lead into like the next 3 movies if they end up doing them, because they have to either. I don't know. I don't want to believe they're just going to kill baby Grogu off, but I don't know what his future is. I kind of am hesitant to say that he's going to be like the leader of Mandalore, or at least like the warrior for the Mandalorians.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening.
But it was cool. It was interesting seeing him step in and stop everything, and no one said anything. I was actually super surprised when he like stepped in, and they both were like, "Okay, fine, like let it rest," because that's never happened. They literally talked about that 2 seconds before, like, "Oh, like this is not part of our culture. Like, don't step in. No one can step in." And then Grogu steps in, and they're like, "Okay, like we'll listen to you," which is weird and funny. It's every time I see Grogu do that, like, and he stops them. And they're thinking, like, everyone's always like, "Oh, it's just like the baby. He just like wants to stop." I'm like, you guys understand, like, that thing's like 60 years old. It's like 20 years older than you, right? That thing's probably been on Earth or in the galaxy way longer than you guys have.
Right.
So, but it's cool. It's curious. I'm curious to see how much that influence comes through later on in like the next season, like that kind of Jedi influence on the Mandalorians and what that does to them. So yeah,
nice. Yeah, so before we move on, guys, again, we thank you for joining us live tonight. Feel free, definitely go into the live chat. Let us know how you like this episode. There's only one more episode next week. We've got the finale. Let us know your theories. And yeah, any thoughts on this episode, let us know in the comment section. We'll play them on screen. We'll read them out loud for the audio listeners as well. We appreciate it. All right, moving forward with our breakdown here. We get another monster just like coming out of nowhere. Blows
crazy.
Up. Yeah. I mean, I feel like this scene. So this episode, they relied on the volume, the virtual set quite a bit, but and I've talked about it a couple episodes I feel like it was lackluster, the quality, but I feel like for this episode I thought it looked pretty darn good, and it usually does. Um, and so this was no exception. This scene where the monster just totally destroys the pirate ship, and then all of the Mandalorians, you see them, you know, just get the heck out of there and fly away. It was an awesome scene.
I was surprised as many of them got off the ship as they did. I was like, wow, they actually pretty much all got off.
Yeah.
But they're Mandalorian, so that's to be expected. So
right,
I suppose.
And I think I was a little bit worried that this was going to turn into all of them fighting another monster together, and I really didn't want that to happen. So thankfully it didn't. Not long after this, we see them get ambushed by the Beskar Imperial troopers, and that's probably not what their actual name is, but that is what they are. And so they're fighting these guys off. Again, like, the show is just it's building up more and more at this point, this episode, and it's just getting better and better. But they're fighting them off, and I feel like they're doing a pretty good job. But I don't know if you saw it too, but like as they're making their way inside like the cave and like kind of pressing the attack forward, it looks like they're really handling business, and then I'm like, this is too good to be true. Like that. They're walking into something right now, and yeah, so Gideon traps them. That he traps like a decent amount of them together. Bo-Katan, Axe-Woves, Pre Vizsla, and a few others. But he separates them from Din Djarin, and then Din's fighting off a bunch of these troops himself, which I thought it was a great scene. I just love, one thing that I love about Din is like, he can get his butt kicked like constantly, but he's never going down without a fight. Like he's always going down to the very end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you see the resilience from his character, just like so much resilience. So yeah, he's totally trapped. What do you think of all this? You can even continue on with the breakdown if you want.
I mean, you went through quite a bit, because that action scene when these troopers come out, I forget what they're called, but there's a group of Mandalorians that did follow the Empire and join them. Right. I don't know if it's quite it would be kind of around this time, huh?
No, well, that was in Rebels, so it still was a while ago.
Yeah, like. Yeah, so
this is after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, it could have been those guys, but I thought it was a great action scene. I thought it showed. I thought it was. I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but as realistic as it could be with how they were fighting and their armor and how it was deflecting bullets, and pretty much every time that one of them went down, it was because they got shot somewhere besides the armor. So it was kind of just showing the durability of this armor that they had. I enjoyed a lot of it. Honestly, I loved seeing them use their kind of grappling like things, which we see get used on Din later. But yeah, 100%. Right when this happens, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is definitely a trap. Like there's no chance. Like immediately, I was like, they're leading them somewhere. I was like, don't go, please don't do it. No. And it was a cool scene seeing it like lead up and seeing Din take that kind of beating and use his armor so well. I think that's what he's so good at, is that kind of Mandalorian thought process where it's, it's supposed to be used for armor and not a weapon. And so he just kind of could take things. But yeah, it was interesting to see. And I thought it was cool how they kind of linked it together, where they show up to the old forge, and that's probably where they had most of that Beskar. And that's why Gideon kind of set up his shop in this area, because there's probably a lot of Beskar around this place because it was the forge.
Right.
And so he could like find some so easily. I thought that was kind of like a good connection between that. But yeah, once they started going down the tunnels and it started becoming like more of like newer, like Imperial, like kind of looking, I knew it was over. And when they first get into that scene where those guys take off, and you definitely know at this point that it's a trap, I thought it was super cool how they showed the hangar and just kind of like all the sets down there. And yeah, so I thought it was really well done. I thought it was cool. But yeah, I knew it was a trap the whole time. Pretty stressed out during that scene because I was just kind of waiting for something to happen. And you kind of mentioned it where Din goes out and they kind of get separated, and you see like Bo and Grogu and Vizsla like looking out at Din, and he has to try his best to take on all these guys, but it's to no avail, and he gets like strung up basically. Listen,
literally.
I love this show. I thought this was a great episode.
It's the episode we needed. Frankly, we needed it sooner, but like we talked about it last week, like we 100% need this kind of episode this week. Like we had to have this. Like Filoni and Favreau, like basically they're saving the season here for us because it's been okay, but like I just feel like everything should always get better. Like from season 1 to season 2, we saw that. I don't feel like season 3 just yet has been as good as season 2.
No.
And so like they really needed to bring it this week.
I'll tell you what, Filoni's really good at finishing things. All right. Like we won't get into it. We have a Bad Batch review out, but how he finished season 2 of that is what he's bringing now, and we'll see. Like in the credit scenes, guys. Yeah, go check it out. But in the credit scenes, yes, it says it's written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and then directed by this one guy who's also directing the next episode. And so this is like a part 1 of 2. So it's going to carry on. It's going to kind of be like the same exact vibes, and it's going to be amazing for the season finale. I'm not doubting that at all. But I have a gripe. Okay, this is what I'm getting to. Why the heck didn't they just kill Din? What was the purpose of capturing him?
I was about to ask you,
what is this about?
Did you think that maybe he was going to die right there? Because I
wanted him to.
I know you did.
I was like, kill him.
I thought they were going to.
Dude, imagine if he just decapitated him or something, like in front of Grogu. Like, oh goodness, because that would make me think, okay, he's a Jedi, he has powers. Is he gonna go down like a Sith kind of road? Like, is he gonna let that like revenge take over and that hate? Right. Like that. They could have played that angle pretty well. But yeah, I thought it was like kind of ridiculous that he didn't kill him. Like, I just was like, okay, they just need to do this for the show, I guess, to carry on. We're not gonna question it too much, but I guess we'll find out next episode, which is there's not going to be a reason, folks. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be no reason given. It's just going to be that's it. I don't know how else to say it. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was great. You wanted to get into Gideon's suit and everything, and this is going to open up a whole can of worms for what the armor's helmet looks like, who she used to follow. Maybe she's doing something behind the scenes and backstabbing some people right now because of her past with those people that we don't yet know is her past with those people. Because we talked about it, and I think that she's just Brooke.
You mean Rook? You mean Rook?
Rook, I mean, yeah. Yeah, Rook. I think she's Rook.
You want to tell the listeners just a little bit about Rook, like what we know of her, just in case they're not familiar?
Yeah, so she used to be part of the Watch, and she used to be one of the people that followed Darth Maul in those last season season 7 Clone Wars.
She was Shadow Collective. Yeah,
she was a Shadow Collective, and she followed Maul, and Maul's clan of Mandalorians had horns on their helmet, so that's like a pretty big indication that something's going on, because their armor does. She also has the same colors, but Rook was a follower, and she even took on Bo-Katan in that season 7. They didn't like each other,
Yeah. I think it was like a really cool elevator scene, I believe, that they're fighting in, and that was really cool.
Yeah, so she has history with Bo-Katan. That's why maybe the armor already knew who she was when she rolled up to her pad, and she's like, "Oh, Bo-Katan." Rook was not a good person. We've kind of
She
talked
wouldn't
about
know
this
her
before.
voice though. She wouldn't know her voice though.
It's been a couple years. I don't know. Who knows? Because that's like I think what you mentioned last time. But dude, I have no idea. All I know is there's a lot of signs kind of pointing to it. And I don't really get the connection that much besides what we talked about. She was going for redemption, and maybe it's more of like a redemption arc, and she's just trying to do the best thing that she thinks is for her people. Cough, cough, just like Bo-Katan did. Cough, cough. Foreshadowing of something that might be happening. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that Gideon had horns on his helmet, because we haven't had any mention of Maul, and it doesn't seem like he'd be a follower of Maul. It just seemed like maybe because like the Vizsla house had horns, he had horns on his helmet. It seemed that maybe he's just trying to be the new leader of Mandalore. I don't know. You wanted to talk about his armor, so I have no idea where you're gonna take this, but I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too much more. It's kind of interesting when you're talking about all that. Like, it kind of makes me think of Paz, because like if anyone was gonna kind of go in like a direction like that, it would probably be him, because he's a descendant of pre-Vizsla. You know what I mean? So if anyone had like a chip on his shoulder, like it would be him. And you know what I mean? Like there could be an argument for him to kind of take his character in that direction and be a little bit more villainous.
Yeah, but we also know that Vizsla was, you mentioned before with the watch, that Bo-Katan was basically like the right hand person to Vizsla. And maybe it's, like he just has that kind of connection. Like he finally was able to see or like follow somebody else. And I'm going to spoil it right now, but maybe that's why the armor is sacrificed. Like didn't intentionally sacrifice him, but like didn't care if he died because he stopped following her. And so he's like, so she doesn't care, and she's like, all right, like go ahead, like I'm gonna betray everybody, I'm gonna save the people that I need to, but clearly you're already thinking about following someone else, and like she doesn't care about him. I think the armor is just trying to make a deal with Gideon and save her people as much as she can. And she didn't care about the Night Owls, and that's why I'm saying like maybe she was part of the Shadow whatever collective, and like is just trying to save who she has power over. And so she struck a deal. Gideon is going to betray her obviously in the next episode, because that's what he does. And yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know where you're at, but that's where my head's at.
I was going to bring that up too. So when the armor, takes the wounded Mandalorians back to like their base, that's what I was thinking is, did she do that on purpose? Like not just for like their benefit so that they could start to heal, but basically knowing that they're walking into a trap and kind of like setting them up in a way.
Yeah.
I think that it could have been like that. But honestly, and I said this in the past too, I still feel like the Night Owls now, they might still be not loyal to Bo-Katan anymore, even though they used to be. I think maybe Axe Woves and some of the other Night Owls could be with the armor and could be with Gideon.
Yeah. I mean, it's called Spies. There's multiple.
Yeah.
Dude, because I've heard people talk about the timeline about this like season, and questioning like when, like how long it's been. It was like over a year this season so far, because it does seem like a lot has had to happen, and she went and had to find people and all this stuff. Like once the armor heard that, I've heard people say like once the armor heard that the mythosaur is still on there, and that Din and Bo went to the planet, that she like hit up the Gideon and was like, yeah, it's like safe down there. And so he went and started building a base and like mining all of their like armor and stuff like that. But dude, I don't know. I just think she has, like, it's too obvious. I don't know how big of a twist they want it to be, but it just seems like she I don't want to say it, folks, but she brought them up. She literally made Bo-Katan like the leader and was like, yeah, go find the rest of the Night Owls and like bring them over here in a big group and like let's go over to this planet. Oh shoot, Gideon's there to kill us all, to kill all the Night Owls. That's a shame. I hope I can get my people out, like, because she left a lot of her people back, on the other planet. So maybe she's just kind of making Bo-Katan think that like it's her idea to go back and that they need to go back, and then shows up there and Gideon's already there and they already have their forces and he's gonna wipe them out. And he promised her like, I won't kill your clan. Mm-hmm. But if that happens, I'm assuming he's going to betray her. And I honestly would love this where that did happen. She's betraying the Night Owls and getting rid of them and wants them to die. And then she gets betrayed by Gideon in this next episode and realizes like she needs to redeem herself. And so she like goes out fighting for like Mandalore and just her people. Because if it was this person that was so conflicted in the past, like she's already made so many mistakes by betraying her own people. I mean, she honestly led like her people to a massive downfall and caused a great civil war. And so if she can like redeem herself and like bring her people together at the end of this, I would really appreciate that. But we'll see. I don't know if I'm right. But
we'll find out soon. For sure.
Do you think that Din is dead or gonna die? I should say. Do you think he's gonna die? Because it's Disney, Yeah,
I'm not too sure, but they're showing us in the last couple episodes. They've been showing us. Maybe it doesn't mean a whole lot, but Grogu has been sitting with Bo-Katan a lot more, like in her lap. We're starting to just like be more comfortable with Grogu, kind of going with Bo a little bit more, you know what I mean? And like the idea of it kind of being the two of them. I mean, I think we all want to see it be the three of them still.
Yes.
But on the other hand, as we both well know, a well-executed sacrifice in television, or in just like film in general, like when done properly, like means so much to the story. So I do think that it's a possibility. I was prepared last night for Din to die.
That's why I almost feel like he's not gonna die, is because if they wanted to do it, they should have done it last night. They should have had that scene, what I'm talking about, and have it be a big, like, kind of crossroads for Grogu, where he's either going to turn and like go towards his anger with the Jedi side and go for revenge and like maybe just go complete bonkers. But I don't know how they wouldn't be able to like finish that storyline unless they came out with other movies later where maybe Grogu is like the next Sith that's coming up and Rey has to figure out how to take on this like evil Yoda, which would be sick. But I feel like they wasted it. If they didn't do it last night, they like wasted that kind of like moment where you were like, okay, he's gonna like die and like this is where we're at. So I don't think he's gonna die this season. At least this season, I don't think.
Well, I want to know more theories and like both give more of our theories, but maybe we'll talk just a little bit more about like this ending of the episode, um, because obviously Din is taken away, and then the Mandalorians are trying to retreat. I thought it was great seeing Bo-Katan, stab the wall and make an opening through the wall with the saber. I think maybe I'm sure a lot of people were kind of wondering why she didn't use the saber earlier, but again, the troopers had Beskar on, so you're way better off, because like I was thinking that too personally. Like I really want to see her use the dark saber on these guys, and then then it dawns on you like it's way more precise to just keep shooting and hopefully you'll hit them under the armor, because there's so many of them, so there's no point in using the saber at this point, and you're just gonna end up hitting their armor and it's not gonna do anything. But it was great seeing her cut a hole through the wall, very reminiscent of Qui-Gon Jinn in episode 1. That was one of my favorite moments of Star Wars as a kid, like seeing Qui-Gon open the blast doors with the saber.
Yeah, I mean, right when she cut that hole, I was like, "There's no way Vizslá's getting through that thing."
Yeah,
that was my first thought. I was like, "He's not gonna make it. He ain't getting through there." She cuts this like tiny hole. I was like, "Yeah, poor fella." All right.
You've seen Nacho Libre?
Yes.
It's like when Nacho's going through the tunnels, which they call them the tunnels in the wall.
Yes.
It'd be like that.
Yeah, I thought for sure. Yeah.
That'd be.
Anyways, that was my first thought.
Yeah,
but I sensed it coming. Yeah.
So they're trying to fall back. Bo's trying to get Baz to come along, and he's like, "No, I've got to do this. There's too many of them." So he has Bo leave. He keeps fighting. Honestly, this is a great ending, and just like an awesome scene. So much good action at the end of this episode. But yeah, he's tearing it up with his heavy armored weapon, and just like firing on all these troopers. And really, he's like really he's really holding his own. And then it's not till we see the Praetorian guards, and they start to give him a tough time. Oh, and it's great too how like his gun overheats too. I thought that was awesome.
I thought it was super cool.
It was awesome. And yeah, Praetorian guards, they're back, and better than ever.
They looked really cool.
Awesome. They did.
I thought it was like way better than what they did.
Yeah, they looked
quicker.
They looked cooler than Last Jedi, of course. They looked they fought better than Last Jedi. And then I always love it when the Mandalorians use their shield on their arm. That's always really cool to me. And then and then he has his vibro blade always too. So he gave him a little bit of a fight, but they're too much for him in the end.
I was going to say it wasn't big enough, honestly. I didn't enjoy it. It just seemed so quick. Like he just got manhandled. I wish it was a little bit more of a fight, a little bit more of a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like they could have toyed with him a little bit more and shown like how powerful like those guys are, those guards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They kind of just stabbed him a bunch, which was sad. I was like, oh no. But I think
he was a good character. He was a good character.
Yeah, we all sensed it, I think, because the more they show a character during an episode, the more likely that person is going to die, usually. So, like, they showed him a lot this season, especially, and showing that he has a son. Like,
yeah,
I thought it was a pretty good arc for him to go through. Because we saw him in Book of Boba Fett last time, where it was just him and the armor. Literally, I don't even know where everybody else was. I can't remember if they even mentioned where everybody else was. But he was a lot more accepting this season and kind of like just like broadening like his mindset on it, like other Mandalorians and other cultures, and being willing to, you know, put aside. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
No, go for it. What?
I was just gonna say he makes a huge jump, like his mindset
Massive.
and everything. Because when we see him in that episode in Book of Boba Fett, you know, him and Din Djarin are going at it, and like Paz knows his history. He knows like he's a descendant of Pre Vizsla, who's a descendant of Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian Jedi, and so he knows, like, although, you know, there's an argument to be made that the saber belongs to Bo-Katan, there's an argument to be made that it belongs to him too, because it started in his family lineage. And so he even thought to himself, you know, maybe I should be the one to wield it. And, you know, we see a much different mindset at the end of his arc.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was having to do, you saw Din, he wasn't accepting of him, and then he left and got reborn in the waters of Mandalore. Same with Bo, and just that like first acceptance of being like, okay, because even in that scene, he's like, I don't like this chick, Bo-Katan, like I don't want her in the clan. And then Din like saves his son, and so it shows him like it doesn't matter what our differences are, like we should still be looking out for each other. And so that's what it shows in that last scene, where he's like, all these guys that I'm trying to protect right now like aren't part of my clan, but like this is for the greater good, and like we're supposed to be on each other's sides. And so he sacrifices himself. So I thought it was cool. I enjoyed that little arc. I'm kind of disappointed that we're not going to see Jon Favreau, you know, but shoot, maybe they could just put him in a bacta tank, and you know, he'll be all, he'll be better, guys. He'll be okay. He'll be okay.
Well, that's basically the episode, but I think there's still a few more theories that we might want to throw out there, and a little bit more speculation too. Again, guys, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, let us know in the comment section your theories, how things will end for season 3. Speaking of bacta tanks, Jake, what are the chances that we see Boba Fett in the finale?
Okay. All right, you're taking it there. All right. Unlikely.
Yeah.
Unlikely would be my guess. My assumption would be I get like a 5% chance. A 2 to 5% chance. Probably. I just don't see like there has been I guess they mentioned Skywalker.
Oh, your audio is kind of glitching just a little bit.
Regardless, yeah, I don't think it's likely. If he does show up,
there we go.
Okay, yeah, if he does show up, I am gonna be kind of confused, and it's honestly mostly because he doesn't seem like a. I don't want to say it. He seems like he sucks at fighting. Like I don't know.
Well, he's always getting wrecked.
I guess like I might be able to see him come, but I just don't know who would have told him like what's going on in Mandalore. You know, like I could see him showing up and doing his like bomb and taking out some people and flying around and trying to, right? I could see him doing something like that if they wanted to, but I would just be confused. I guess if he showed up, I would just be like, "What? Like, where'd this come from?" I would feel as if they just did this because they took 2 episodes showing the Mandalorian out of his season.
Yeah, good point.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll just be like, okay, this is just kind of like a payback, I guess. Like, what the heck is going on?
To kind of just double down on like look, guys, it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to like cross over
Yeah,
back and forth.
exactly. I'll just be like, wait, what the
Yeah.
heck is going on right now?
I feel like there's like a 40, maybe even a 50% chance, honestly.
Really?
I do. I don't necessarily want it to happen because,
I
like,
don't want it to happen at all.
I feel like a lot of people were disappointed about Book of Boba Fett, and a lot of those reasons are just like his character really changed from our perspective of him from the original trilogy, from maybe of his portrayal in Clone Wars 2, and like basically Din is more so how I always pictured Boba Fett, but even like more darker and a little bit more ruthless than Din, which he still is kind of ruthless, but like you said, he's much weaker than we all thought in some ways, you know. And so I feel like there's a really good chance because of what you were saying about them crossing over, but
I'm gonna tell you right now, bro.
I don't think it won't hit as hard, you know.
Yeah.
For the audience, I feel like it just won't hit as hard. So
okay, so here's what they're gonna do. If we're gonna get any cameos next, I'm gonna rank them for you, Dom. Spoiler alert.
Okay,
incoming.
Here
we come. If Boba Fett shows up, I am going to be disappointed. I could see a lot more of what they're gonna do is maybe the Rebel. What are they called? The new whatever. New Republic.
New Republic, yeah.
I could see that fighter pilot. Oh no, am I glitching out? Are we good?
I think we're good.
I could see that fighter pilot showing up, Blue. I could see Blue showing up with Zeb.
Yeah.
I could also see Ahsoka showing up with her
That'd
people.
Be cool.
I could see Ahsoka showing up. We got that trailer. It was more of like an introduction, like, hey guys, this is coming. Like, get ready for it. And maybe Ahsoka shows up, or maybe the Rebels show up in some capacity and back them up on this, because we know that Ahsoka's looking for Gideon. And so it would make 1,000% more sense if Ahsoka just showed up. And then they kind of explain that in the beginning of the Ahsoka series, like why she was looking for him, how that came to be, and then like how she's hunting him now. So,
okay, can I step in real quick? I feel like now that you say that, I feel like there's got to be a decent chance that Sabine shows up, because
I could see Sabine showing up
because of her friendship with Bo-Katan, and because of her loyalty to Mandalore.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. Yeah,
Sabine's arc in Rebels, I mean, it has so much to do with liberating Mandalore and honor. And so, like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe Bo-Katan could send out like a just distress call to her. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I can see that happening. All I'm saying is I think it's going to be more of like a tie to the Ahsoka show that's going to come, rather than a tie to an old show. No, that's what I'm saying. I could see that happening rather than like Boba Fett showing up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's we're not even talking about season 2 of Boba Fett. Like no one cares. If he showed up, we'd be like, okay, cool. Like what's going on? If like Zeb showed up, or like so like Blue found out and Blue's like, we got to go, and Zeb's like, oh, I got to call like the Rebel crew and see like if they can help. And then they all show up, and then it's like a whole thing, and Gideon gets a little bit overwhelmed, but still kicks the butt out of them a little bit. So Sabine, if she shows up, we've seen her kind of in hiding a little bit, maybe in the Ahsoka trailer. At least that's how I kind of got. She's kind of laying low. So maybe something happens where she feels like she needs to lay low at the end of this, or maybe the other rebels show up and they're like, hey, guess what? We just found Gideon. Thrawn's back. You need to come with us. And so that's when Sabine kind of gets back involved in the Ahsoka show that's happening. You know?
Can I say something else?
Okay.
In regards to the Ahsoka trailer, you guys can watch our review on that. Well, I did one, and then pretty soon we're going to have a couple more short episodes coming out soon where we talk about it more, talk about other Star Wars stuff too. talk about Star Wars Celebration. But in regards to the Ahsoka trailer, slight spoiler here for the trailer, and for I guess the show if you don't want to know anything about Ahsoka. But in the footage that they showed at Star Wars Celebration, I don't know if you saw this going around online. It looks like they showed a little bit more. Oh, I think my brother Adrian was telling us about this too.
Yeah, I talked about it.
I saw it later on, but we didn't.
You did? You check it out?
Yeah, but we didn't mention this part. They showed them a little bit extra at Star Wars Celebration, and they showed Sabine with Ezra's green lightsaber. So I thought that was really interesting.
They did? What?
They did. So
I'll go back and watch it.
And she's used Ezra's lightsaber in Rebels before, but how cool would it be to see like Bo-Katan and Sabine like both with their sabers in the finale? I don't know. I mean, I'm just a sucker for lightsabers, but I think it'd be cool.
No, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I'm down with that. It seemed like she was still kind of out of the fight when Ahsoka comes and meets her in the trailer. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think she's going to show up in this. I think it might just be like Ahsoka Rebels, like Zeb's going to be like, hey, like, come on. And then Sabine's going to be like, still depressed about losing Ezra and kind of staying out of the fight until Ahsoka comes and gets her back in this, like, the Star Wars world during her series. Yeah. I definitely think that Blue's going to show up, and I'm hoping that they kind of introduce these new characters in The Mandalorian to prepare us for, like, they have to. You know, I almost feel like they have to, so we kind of get a sense like, oh, okay, so Ahsoka's doing this. She has this group of people, and, like, they're hunting after Thrawn now. And if they have to go after Moff Gideon, like, that's what they're going to do because that's their link to Thrawn. So I'm throwing predictions out there, and I'm going to stick by it. We're going to revisit it, obviously, next week. But, you know, I just logically, that's what I'm thinking.
So break it all down for me. What would you really like to see that you think is fairly possible? Like, what would you like to see, but still within, like, I guess, Disney possibilities? You know what I mean?
Literally what I've talked about, and I can put it all together for you. The fact that the armor is Rook, that she is trying to save her people like Bo-Katan once did, but she doesn't want to save all of them. She's willing to sacrifice most of her people for a specific group. She gets betrayed by Moff Gideon, and in this scene she has to, like, kind of redeem herself, and she realized that she made this.
Oh no. We lost Jake again for a second. We'll let him get back to us here in just a second. It shouldn't take long, and then we'll pick back up on his theory. But yeah, again, guys, what do you think is going to happen in the finale? Apologize for the technical difficulties, but we're back. We got him back.
All right. So I'm breaking down the next episode for you. Okay. I'm really trying to right now.
Yeah, no worries.
My bad. So regardless, so we have this arc with Armor. She has to kind of redeem herself. And she realizes that she messed up, just like Bo-Katan did, that Moff Gideon is not someone that you could trust no matter what. It's going to unite the Mandalorian people for sure, I think, at the end of this, for at least next season. I don't know what they're doing beyond that. Maybe we'll see some more conflict in that movie Dave Filoni's going to do, but would love to see the Armor have this, like, kind of realization she made a mistake, even though she thought she was doing something right for her people. Because I don't even know if the Armor knew what Bo-Katan did, right? So she didn't know that, like,
until the dinner.
Exactly. And after hearing that, she's like, oh, like, maybe I made a mistake here. And so she's gonna have to deal with those repercussions next episode. I think she's probably gonna die. I think that
the Armor,
and I think that the rebels are Gideon. I think that like it's just I don't know if she's gonna die by like at the hands of Gideon, like physically, but she's gonna understand that like she's gonna get bombed, that he's gonna kill them all. She's gonna do all she can to like save the rest of whoever's on that ship, and get the rest of the Mandalorians out of there. But I think that the rebels are gonna show up. They're gonna save Din with I think Ahsoka's gonna come in and save Din because he's captured, and she's pretty much the only person that can do that. I think Bo's gonna meet up with Ahsoka as well. They're gonna formulate a plan. Ahsoka's gonna come in, save Din. They're gonna get out of there okay, and it's just gonna be building up like Gideon kind of fleeing from the situation because he doesn't understand that Ahsoka's still around looking for Thrawn, and he's gonna like go back and need Thrawn to like bring his forces in for season 4. If that makes any sense, I'll break it down next week because I just did, but I'm pretty sure that's gonna happen. Betrayal in the beginning with Armor. She's gonna die. She's gonna sacrifice. She has to save the rest of her people. Ahsoka rebels are gonna come in. They're gonna save Din from his capture because Bo-Katan's gonna have a discussion with them, and Gideon's gonna get beat up. He's gonna kill a lot of people, but I think he's gonna feel as if the forces are too strong. He already mentioned that if the Mandalorians are together, they can't be beaten, and so he's gonna flee, looking for Thrawn to be his backup for next season. And he's gonna like use Thrawn, and Thrawn's gonna use him, and it's gonna be what we kind of talked about that happened in the beginning of this episode, where they're gonna be trying to use each other for the power. And I, like you said, I think Thrawn's gonna obviously take over and be like the next big bad after season 4. But I think it's gonna be a really interesting dynamic next season. I'm just saying. Yeah, I might have called out the next episode.
That was great.
But I don't know. We'll see.
Do you think that some of the factions are going to be fighting each other in the finale?
I don't know. I think there's going to be some internal conflict going on, but for the most part, I don't believe so. It's Disney, and I think if the Armor does what I'm saying she does, it could it's
kind of a lot. It's kind of like a lot of different people all fighting each other. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you kind of still, even though I want to see that, like, I think it would serve some kind of purpose. At the same time, you kind of simplify things a little bit for this last episode too. Like, you know what I mean? We can't have things get like so convoluted to where like this group of people is fighting this group, and then they're also fighting this group over here, and then these people are fighting these people. You know what I mean? It's got to be a little more contained, I think.
Exactly. So I don't think there's going to be like a civil war between the factions. I think that after this season, and if the Armor does what she does, that there's going to be mistrust between the factions. And so I don't think they're going to be all out fighting each other, but there's going to be more of like internal mistrust between them, which is going to play out next season, where they're going to be trying to figure each other out, and they're not going to know like if they can fully go along with someone's plan because they don't know if they're going to betray them again. So I think this betrayal is going to play out in a way with the Armor, but like we were just talking about in the beginning of this episode how there's that internal conflict with the Empire. So I think on both sides there's going to be some weird dynamic like at play in the background, but we'll see. Like between the Empire and the Mandalorians, I think that there's going to be some shifts of what they think or who they think should rule. So we'll see though.
How about you, man? Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of those are really good possibilities. I've been thinking and in some ways kind of wanting Din to make a sacrifice, and I felt like his sacrificing himself for Bo-Katan would be like a really big deal, especially after their conversation in this episode, before they get into the battle. His conversation with her, and what was that line he said to her too? It was like, "Your song hasn't been written yet," or
Your song has been sung yet, yeah.
or it hasn't been sung yet. Yeah.
And I felt that too, and that's
Yeah,
why like that
that was a great
scene.
line.
But that's why that scene at the end of this episode, like they wasted it. That's how I feel. Like they just kind of wasted that. Like that was his point to sacrifice himself to be like, get out of here. But then they gave that to somebody else. They gave that to Paz. You know what I mean? It's like
I feel like it could still work pretty good, in the next episode. And honestly, like, to you know, to what you always say, I feel like it could be poetic for him to say that line again too, like when he's dying.
hey, dude, a good death always makes the show better. Okay. But that's
So
what I'm saying. Like, I think they're saving that for season 4.
that they very well could be, yeah.
You know, like I feel as if Disney did that, I guess for them it's not much of a risk to do, but the Force is female is what everyone would be saying. Like, not to bring up Kathleen Kennedy again, but if that happened, like, dude, people would be like up in arms. Or do you not, like, I feel like that's too much of a risk right now at the end of season 3 to do, you know, because it's called The Mandalorian. You can't have a Mandalorian season 4 without like Din Djarin. And if that, like, that's so risky, like, I understand it, and that's why I would love it.
But
I don't know if it would be received well. You know what I'm saying?
Personally, to me, I would be fine with it. Maybe even to you too. I don't know exactly, but again, I feel like it's for some of us who have been with Bo-Katan and her journey through Clone Wars and Rebels, like to me, I really don't mind if it becomes her show. You know,
no, we talked about it. I don't mind.
Go back and forth. I go back and forth. Like, I want it to be their show. I want it to be the 3 of them and like continue that on. But at the same time, like we've talked about, like having that sacrifice too could just be really good, to close out this season. So,
dude, if they do it the right way, they can do it.
Yeah.
Spoiler warning: Tech dies at the end of season 2 of Bad Batch, folks.
Bad Batch.
And like, okay, so here's my reasoning. I feel there's 2 sides to the sword. I don't know if they would sacrifice him because I don't think they've given him enough screen time. Like, they have shown some things where like he really is like a father figure and cares about Grogu every time he comes back from a mission. He's like, oh, there's my boy. But I don't know if they've given him enough screen time. Maybe they feel like they already have through seasons 1 and 2 to give us like that impact. But I just wouldn't feel as much like impact this season if they killed him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. He's had a little bit less screen time than I think we all thought he would.
But then the other double-edged sword,
like you're cutting out
pairing.
Again. Oh, okay. There you go. You were saying how Bo's had more screen time.
So like maybe they've just been giving us more screen time with Bo to like prepare us for the fact that like Din's not gonna be around. You know, but I just don't feel like they've given us that like kind of feel this season to really kill off Din. Like, I don't know what, like, is there like a point in the season where you're like, oh, they gave us that one scene, so when he dies, you're gonna think back on that one scene this season to be like, oh, this hurts. Like, oh, like, has he, like, what has he done?
Yeah, good point. Now that you mention all that,
you know what I mean?
I feel that for sure. Like, he needs more growth. He needs more development. Like, the sacrifice would be good, but you also have to have your character earn the sacrifice in the end too.
Yeah.
And he hasn't he hasn't had enough screen time to earn that sacrifice and have it really impact us at this point, I think is what you're saying, and I'd probably have to agree. So yeah, I guess probably more unlikely that he's going to die at the end of the season.
Yeah, it would be like a waste unless they did it last night when he's like, all right, get out of here. Like, I got them. Like, leave me. But he didn't die. And so now I'm like, okay, there's no chance he's dying because they just wasted that opportunity and they gave it to Paz Vizsla instead. So
yeah.
That's just kind of where my logic takes me.
I was going to say one more thing to like add to Paz's story arc. It's I think it's supposed to show how he was really, I guess, the embodiment of like a Mandalorian that came to really find that unity. You know what I mean? Like in his heart, if that makes sense. Which again, like he was very divided at the beginning. Again, he was very divided, and he came to like, he came full circle, and then he felt like he could have that compassion to all of his brothers and sisters, you could say, all of his Mandalorian family.
It was basically like what Din said to Bo-Katan in that one scene on that boat is how Paz felt throughout the season, where he gave up tradition. Like, he's going to live his tradition, but he's not going to judge you on it. He's going to judge you on your character. He doesn't care about anything else as long as you're like willing to sacrifice for the team. And like, that's what he grew into, was to be like, I don't care about that stuff. Like, you could take off your helmet. You've shown me that you're willing to die for me and my family. Like, I'm cool with it. And so that Din speech that he gave to Bo was like a real like indication to me when that happened. I was like, oh, like Paz is gonna die, because like that's how he feels at this point, you know. So
yeah,
it's cool to see him turn for sure. Yeah. You didn't believe it, but I was like, this is like a Paz and Bo-Katan season. You're like, I don't even care, dude. I don't even care, dude.
It was good. It was good. I felt like there was something else I wanted to say as far as theories go. Oh, yes. I can't forget about this. I've been watching Rebels again. And guys, I mentioned it before or in another episode, but now's the time to really brush up on your Rebels knowledge as we get closer to Ahsoka. And me and Jake will be doing some videos on some of the Rebels history, maybe a couple of our favorite moments or important moments in Rebels as we get closer to Ahsoka. But one thing noteworthy in Rebels, which I was thinking of when I saw this episode tonight or last night, the armor. You know, we're talking about the armor quite a bit. We're talking about the Imperial troops that have the Beskar armor. I don't know if you remember this episode, Jake, but in Rebels, there's an episode where they're taking out this base. I believe it's on Mandalore, actually, but I could be wrong. But anyways, Sabine had created a weapon to destroy Beskar armor. Yes. And at one point, the Empire used it on the Mandalorians. But now we fast forward to this time, and Sabine, at the end of this episode, spoiler for this episode of Rebels, she fixes the machine and has it target only the Imperials. And like the Imperial troops that have the Beskar, and so she uses her weapon against them. And then but you know what? I think she destroys it at the end. Never mind.
She does.
Yeah. Well, there goes that. Sorry, guys. I totally forgot about that until right now. That's
hey,
funny.
We're going down rogue theories. We're trying to figure this out. I'm not going to say that I spit it out correctly.
She could always build it again. She could always build it again, I guess, but probably not.
We're gonna let Dom think what he's saying is correct, but I already said what the next episode is, guys. Set up next season. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have too much more to add to that. Yeah, I totally forgot that she cuts it with the blade, I think, at the end.
do you think Gideon dies at the end of this season?
Originally, I thought that at the end of the season, Thrawn was going to show up and kill Gideon. I think there still could be that chance.
I almost feel like he's gonna get killed by the Mandalorians and Ahsoka, and then Thrawn's gonna hear about it and be like, "Oh, like they're back and they're just took out a massive like asset to me. Like I need to probably focus on these people a little bit more." Or is that something like, because I'm almost kind of thinking that way.
Well,
like I thought he would get away, but now that I'm thinking about, like, maybe he just doesn't get away. Like he got away last like 2 seasons, right? Like we gotta kill this guy eventually.
But I mean, Thrawn he already knows that the Mandalorians, are a threat.
Well, yeah, he attacked Bo-Katan's temple.
They have history.
Yeah, in episode like 4 or whatever, he blew up Bo-Katan's thing, I think. So
yeah, probably so.
I don't know.
Okay, but we'll wrap things up here soon. Couple more things real quick. Chances that Luke shows up?
0.
Okay.
That was a quick answer. Absolutely none.
It was. It's probably pretty low.
Oh, but I would die. I would die if Ahsoka and Luke both showed up, because we've seen Ahsoka and Anakin fight with each other before, and I think that'd be a sweet little payoff if we've seen Ahsoka fight with Anakin against Anakin, and now she's fighting with his son. I think that'd be really cool, like fan service. But I don't know.
I think they're gonna they'll probably save that more towards the end,
or for her series. I think.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like they have to save something.
Because
they gotta do something.
It also would kind of take away from the Mandalorians. Like the Mandalorians need to be the ones to liberate their homeworld. You know what I mean? And to take it back.
I don't think that they're gonna stay there.
That's right. I remember you saying that.
I just don't think that's gonna happen. For whatever reason, I just don't see that. I don't know why.
I mean, it's pretty trashed.
It's trashed. Maybe. I mean, there's people living on there, but they clearly don't have food. There's no resources on the planet for like civilization to thrive. You know, you kind of need fields to plant crops in and animals to hunt, and that's not part of Mandalore anymore. So although we do have massive creatures that you could probably store for 50 years if you kill one and eat the meat, we've seen that. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cursed. I think it's a cursed planet for them now. Like I don't know. I don't think it's meant for them to be there anymore. So,
all right. Well, a couple more things that I want to see for next week. I would like to see maybe towards the beginning of the episode, the armorer gets back to the ship or wherever, whatever base, and her take off her helmet and contact Gideon and have a conversation, but like with her helmet off. I think that could be kind of powerful, and kind of like there's kind of like that hypocrisy behind it too. But that would be like part of the reveal to confirm that she's with Gideon, of course. I think that could be interesting. And then, if she is like we're thinking she is, if she's bad, or if she's one of the spies, she's gone rogue against the other Mandalorians, I want Din to have some kind of like internal conflict with that too, because he's been really devoted to everything, but also, I feel like their relationship, like he looks up to her, you know what I mean?
to the armor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I want to see him be somewhat conflicted when that happens. I'm really just curious too, like what's gonna happen with him too, and like you kind of mentioned before, why did they spare his life? Like, what's the reasoning behind them keeping Din in custody?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just because he's not going to die this season. Is my answer. But dude, I don't know. I would love to see her take off her helmet. I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know if they're going to take off her helmet. Honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. But with Din's internal being, if he found that out and everything that's going on, and the fact that she was willing to sacrifice him is going to kind of put him into like more of a shell of himself, I would think. And I think that's going to allow him to just trust his closest companions, which would have been Paz, because they've had a lot of growth, Bo-Katan, Grogu, and himself. I don't think that he's going to... I think it's going to push him further away from the Mandalorian way, quite frankly. And maybe closer to Bo-Katan's side. Hopefully it kind of tells him that he's like been living the way, but like not... like he doesn't have to. Like,
Yeah.
there is no way. Maybe that's the point of this betrayal, is that he's going to learn there is no way. You're a clan of your small group of people. Like, be yourself, bro. Go out there and live your life, you know? Do what you gotta do.
I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. I don't think it's gonna really matter to him, quite frankly, if you want to know God's honest truth. I think that he's like a pretty like stubborn person in his ways, and that's been shown through the past 3 seasons, and I think he's gonna do what he wants to do. I think he's gonna follow.
Yeah. I mean, that's good too, to be devoted. Regardless if she falls away, you know.
Yeah, like I said, I think she's gonna redeem herself. I think it's gonna like kind of be something that brings the Mandalorians maybe from different factions closer together, to realize after Bo-Katan's speech what she said, and it's a civil war. Like, you can't be doing that to each other, and like the biggest like we're only weak if like we have a weak chain in our system. And so it's gonna like bring them closer. So I don't think it's gonna like be that big of an issue. I think Din's been a pretty understanding guy, I think. I mean, we saw that character growth from season 2 when he first met Bo, and he's like, oh, you took off your helmet, like you're not Mandalorian. And then now he's like, okay, like you're Mandalorian, like I'm okay with it, like we're just from different factions. So I don't think it's really gonna change him that much. I think it's gonna change the Mandalorian people a lot. But him specifically, you know, I just don't see it affecting him that much.
You make a lot of good points tonight, Jake. I mean, you always do, but yeah, I think you're on the money. I mean? Yeah,
I think you're on the. I'm trying to.
You are. I mean, you're making a lot of sense. Because, yeah, and I think that's even better. Like, his devotion, it should be like solid, and it shouldn't be dependent on the armor.
Yeah.
So he'll probably like feel some kind of way about it and like be somewhat upset or frustrated, but if he finds that out, but yeah, he'll still be kind of set in his ways.
Yeah.
I would really like to I'd really like to see the armor and Bo-Katan fight. I really want to see that.
That's not going to happen, but that's pretty cool.
I really want to see it.
Honestly, it could happen. I mean, she escaped. Maybe she finds out that she like betrayed. Like, maybe that's the scene. Maybe Bo-Katan walks in and it's like, oh my god, like you betrayed us, like you're doing this, and the armor finally realizes like this was the wrong move because we're all gonna die here in a second. but I could see them fighting, and then Bo-Katan being like, "Listen, like we need to work together. Like we can't have this division between us. Like fight for us. Like join us. You know." And that's when like redemption happens, and that's when the armor has to sacrifice herself for the betterment of the clan. And she finally understands after fighting Bo-Katan years ago on Mandalore for Darth Maul. She's like, "You are someone I want to lead. Like I want to lead our people. Like you've stepped up. You understand. Like you're not gonna just kill our people just because like you have vengeance in your heart." Which the dark side is all about vengeance. It's all about that thing, and that's why Luke Skywalker was such a great character in Star Wars, is the fact that he didn't give in to that darkness, didn't kill the Sith, didn't go after Palpatine. And in the last episode 6 of the movies, it's like, I'm not even going to give in to this, you know. And so Bo-Katan might have that moment with her, realize that she's betrayed him, still gives her the chance to say, like, you have a second chance, come back, like, do what's right. Armor does something that's right for like the good of the people. Dom's like, this is what's happening next episode. I can see it in his head. He's like, yeah, okay, all right.
This is good, man. This is good.
But you know what I'm saying? Like 100% redemption. We saw that guy leave. Maybe he, you know, in that like scene underground, and he left to go warn them that Gideon's coming. And maybe he gets up there and he's like, oh, like what's going on here?
Oh, the one that flies out.
Yeah, so he already left. He might. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Redemption could possibly happen in that specific way, but we're gonna see.
Yep.
We're gonna see next episode. Dom's like, this could be a good episode.
I mean, it has to be. It has to be, right?
I think if I might be one of the Star Wars fans. Okay. But I think I'm spilling a good story here, that if they do it that way and do it correctly, it would be emotional. We get 3 seasons with this person. We finally realize who they are, what they're going through, like what they're willing to sacrifice, find out that they have great respect and admiration for someone that they did in the past. And now they're willing to do anything they can. Star Wars does that all the time, where they make a mistake, they feel like they can't come back from it, and someone gives them the chance. You know, it's all about chance, second chances, and opportunities, and understanding that you're not completely in the dark, that you could always come back to the light. And so I think they're going to play that really well, especially in that scene. It's going to be emotional, people. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Final thing I will add, and then we can close the show out. I think we need to leave our characters like just in a good spot for the next season. I think we gotta have just a little bit more development with Bo-Katan and really have things be cemented that, again, she is the rightful ruler. She's destined and born to lead Mandalore. And then I guess I'm still kind of curious to see what Din Djarin's destiny is exactly. But well, you know what? He kind of foreshadowed what it is, being a follower of Bo-Katan, being loyal to her, fighting alongside her. So yeah, I guess to just like reaffirm that and like just really establish and like make that feel really grounded at the ending of the season, to have like them both be just like this force to be reckoned with, and hopefully have like more Mandalorians united with them at the end here, no matter what happens. If we're left with them looking in like they're in bad shape still, or if things are looking more positive, looking up for them, no matter what, like we still need like some kind of solid foundation for like our main characters going into season 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like I might have mentioned before, I think a lot of the Mandalorians are going to die. I think it's going to cement their relationship, Bo-Katan, Din Djarin, and Baby Grogu. We've talked about it so much before in the past, how like they're like the perfect kind of mesh of what the Mandalorians need, between the easygoingness of Bo-Katan to the extremists of Din Djarin to like the chosen one of Baby Grogu, where he's a Jedi and a Mandalorian. And I think that's going to get cemented for sure at the end. I think a lot of people are going to die. I think they're going to realize they need to come together, and that's going to be like their main core. And it's going to be a big, like, it's going to be epic for sure in season 4.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, too much meshing where that needs to happen. And it's going to make the other Mandalorians understand that they don't need to be the same. Even a thing that's not even part, that's just a foundling, some guy saved, is like gonna be like a new leader. I think it's all pushing towards this singular goal of unity within this group. So
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's
Absolutely.
gonna end low, but I think it's gonna have on the group, and it's going to bring a lot together.
Yeah.
So
and you mean low, like there's kind of at a weak point still.
They got beat up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're kind of hurting.
A lot of people are going to die. And that's going to be helping towards the idea of unity and this togetherness that they need to have. So that's where I'm ending up. For sure, a lot of people are going to die. Yeah. Yeah, I bank on that.
Yeah. Well, hey, bro, it's been a great review as always. But yeah, I think there was just a lot of excitement from both of us for this episode. Like I said before, we needed a big win here tonight, and
Yeah.
we still need a big win next week, obviously.
Yeah.
So high hopes for next week. Like you said, Filoni knows how to close things out.
Yeah.
Most
Shoot,
likely,
maybe we'll even see the
he'll
Mythosaur
disappoint.
next week. Just take everyone out.
That'd be cool. Also, Disney, well, I mean, they already have done it, but hopefully they're giving us at least an hour-long episode.
Oh, they better give us at least hour 15. It better be hour 15. You know, we gotta.
Nah, I think hour 15 is really pushing it.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have a post-credit scene, so give us hour 15. Give us an hour of actual action and 15 minutes of credit, with like 3 or 4 minutes of it being.
Theory for post-credit scene is it's gonna be about Ahsoka. Oh, Thrawn.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's gonna be Thrawn showing up, being like cracking down and being like, "What just happened? Like, what's going on? Ahsoka's back. Oh, we have to take out these rebels," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get like a little snippet of Ezra. We might get a little him in like a tank. That's like he's being not a Bacta tank, or just like, you know, just being held, like he's trapped, you know, and that's like going to be the purpose of Ahsoka, is like them understanding that he has Ezra like stuck somewhere and they need to go rescue him. So I can see that happening.
Yeah.
For sure. Definitely.
Cool. Well, all right. I think that's going to pretty much do it for our show tonight. But before we head out, again, guys, leave us a like, leave us a comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on this episode and theories going forward. We're looking forward to next week quite a bit. And then finally, we are putting out new episodes today. Actually, this morning, we premiered our Super Mario Brothers movie review with our buddy Vic, and that was a lot of fun. It was a great episode. Good time hanging out with you guys for that one. If you guys missed that, definitely go back and check it out. We really break things down even in that. Like, it was a really fun time, really fun show. And yeah, we kind of talked about like a lot of nostalgia too, as far as like things that we grew up with when we were younger. So yeah, that was a great episode. And thank you guys for the people that tuned in this morning to watch that premiere. We appreciate it. And then myself and Jake and my brother Adrian, over the weekend, we recorded another episode really kind of breaking down Star Wars Celebration and giving our thoughts on a lot of announcements and stuff. And so you can expect to see that, and expect to see some shorter episodes as well.
Yeah.
Just like a handful of fun Star Wars episodes coming your way here soon. And of course, we'll see you back next week, 6 p.m. Pacific, for Mandalorian.
Season finale. It's happening, folks. Listen, I'm not going to say that I was right, but bank on it. Put your money on it.
All right, put your credits on it, guys.
Listen, I got the inside sources. Dom knows.
All right, we will catch you guys in the next one. Have a great night.